What's going on, YouTube? This is Dante with Sports Numbers and Culture, here to talk about a little bit about the NFL draft, the combine that just happened, NFL free agency. So the beginning of the league year is about to come full on. Can't believe it. It's like, hey, the Super Bowl feel like it's just a few weeks ago, and now we're heading into the start of the new league year. I mean, sports time is another great time for us as sports fans, as we do have the NBA playoffs coming up in a month or so. March Madness coming, so lots to get into, lots to talk about. But before we get into anything, just want to say thanks for any like, share, subscribe. Does help with the algorithm, help get the word out. And we try to grow the channel here, so I do appreciate you guys' support. And want to get into a little bit of the Cowboy news. Just basically something that obviously could change their draft plans, and maybe it's a reason why we're hearing from every insider, every person close to the Cowboys that have any type of insider access, or just speculating from the pundits. Anyway, content creators. It's looking like the Cowboys are going to make some moves in free agency. One of the reasons why they're going to be forced to, in my opinion, is because of the news that came out very quietly. Donovan Ezeraku, has a lot of potential. Had some flashes, but wore down. Maybe one of the reasons he wore down was because of the hip surgery that he had. Quietly, it's already had and is recovering, and it's been reported that he is not going to be available until training camp. So he's going to be basically in his first full off season, as far as being with the team. He's going to be doing rehabilitation. So that's something that hurts, and something that makes you think, hey, you can draft an edge player, but edge players, they don't typically hit it, they don't come out of the block running. That's why Michael Parsons was so special, for him not even looked at it. He was an off-ball linebacker, but for him to come in and play the edge position and, play it damn well, 12 sacks, that's just something that is, that's rare that you see. Even from some of the greats, you see the leap coming in year two. Obviously, we were hoping as Cowboy fans that we were going to get the leap in year two from Ezeraku, but now that is certainly in doubt. Because obviously the help, flexibility, learning, picking up a new defense, new D coordinator, and Christian Parker. And so there's a lot of things that he was going to need to do. So unfortunately, we're in this situation. Hope he has a speedy recovery. Hope he does really well coming up in the next season after he recovers. But certainly, the Cowboys are going to have to address free agency with an edge rusher. Maybe I would say a trade, but the only thing with a trade is they don't have a lot of picks. Unless you want to lose one of those late round picks to get someone that's disgruntled and looking for a new deal, coming off maybe a down year, that's something to look at. But the Trey Hendersons of the world, who did not get free agency, do not get a franchise tag, so he will be a free agency at the start of free agency. I can say, everybody says the Max Crosby thing, but when it comes to Max Crosby, it's like you struck gold once, I'd say, with Quinn Williams, a player that I myself and a lot of Cowboys Nation, a lot of guys that have seen him play at Alabama, that really thought he was going to be a fit for the Cowboys, who desperately need defensive tackles, and I just don't see them being able to strike it again. The Raiders obviously are in full rebuild, but they may be thinking, hey, we want to hold on to this cornerstone, or maybe they're overvaluing him, and the draft picks are most valuable on draft day. But that's a move that I would like to see you come now. Obviously, the reporters are coming out and saying they think that this trade could be done by the end of the week. And it makes sense. You're trying to get free agency, get his money off the books. They already have cap space. They're trying to get things together with their offensive line. Obviously, it's worst kept secret. They're going to draft Fernando Mendoza. They have Ashton Jeanty. They have Brock Bowers. If they could build a good offensive line, like I say, a Tyler Linderbaum, who's a free agency. Shout out to my boy Debo. He was telling me about that's who is on his dream list. He's a big Raider fan, and so. But if you lose a player like a Max Crosby, you have to replace him. Another pick helps you replace him, and I think it wouldn't be the worst move for them. I just don't want them to go to Philly. I don't want to go to Philly. I wouldn't mind it if the Rams, who are an aggressive team, have multiple first rounders. If you kind of go there with it, that's a move I could certainly see. But that's the biggest thing that I say concerning the Cowboys Nation is the rumors about Nakobe Dean, which I've mentioned previously. Obviously Devin Lloyd, that's been thrown out there. Devin Bush, I think, who believe is a free agent. So there are guys out there that they need to get as far as every level: linebacker, edge, I would say maybe a little more depth at defensive tackle, probably somewhere where it's not like the biggest move, but something like just a big run stuffer to come in and help out, especially if you're playing a 3-4, even though it's not the traditional old school 3-4 with the big nose and, the big linebackers. It's kind of, it's a little different. It's more a 2026 style. It's a different. And Christian Parker has explained a good job of explaining that, how it's going to be a little bit. And so, but what I do want to say is this, as I move on off of the Cowboys and what happens, I do want to mention one last thing, and the fact that, as I mentioned previously, draft season is lion season, or, just a little embellished, just a little, I was taken out of context. And one of the things that's a Cowboy target at the 12th spot there is Caleb Downs, who I do believe is the best player in this draft, but he plays safety, and he, not the biggest guy, doesn't have the measurables of, say, a Derwin James, doesn't have that type of stature, but his ability is that of a player like that, where he can play the slot, he can play, he can play the safety spot, he can play, he can play back deep at free, he can play as strong. He's like a Swiss Army knife, good tackler, good in coverage, always around the ball, being able to, coach up the defense, get things lined up. Just things like that, and being an instinctive player, that's something, not being able to coach, that's something that's so vital. And he's a player that's going to help a team. In my group chat, we were saying, hey man, this guy, he should go to the Jets, he should go here. And it's just like the positional value of safety, plus the fact of mentioning the injury, and it could be a degenerative knee, and that information's out there now. Teams, it's up to them to look at the player themselves. And I would say the Cowboys, as Jerry Jones has mentioned, he's also mentioned bust the budget, but getting a player and not waiting. And I think Caleb Downs is a guy that's going to come in and make an immediate impact. If you are able to work him out in a private workout, or you're able to see him work out at his pro day, it doesn't matter about the 40 time as much. It just matters about, is he moving fluidly? How is he, how is he moving? If he's doing cold drills, if he's doing DB drills, how does he look? And if he looks good on the field, and you're able to get your doctors to go and sign off on it and say, hey, we don't feel this is a problem, that's a guy you run to the podium and take him at 12. But as we move on here, I do want to get into the fact of the NFL Combine. We saw some of the fastest times for position groups. And I think that, by multiple groups. And I've seen reported that some of this is on behalf of, it's a little bit skewed because the guys that know they're going to run fast are going out and running fast. And the guys that aren't, like the Caleb Downs of the world, who got upstaged by Dylan Thieneman, who ran a 4.35, it's like, hey, I got this great game film. Why am I going to be worried about, hey, I'm even if they're trained for it, I'm not going to go and worry about, hey, I didn't run this blazing fast 40 and go and run it. Play to your strengths. The game speed, the speed of the game, you can see it, especially playing in a conference like the Big Ten, and being able to play in the playoffs like against Miami. Like Caleb Downs, you can see he can play. He's an athletic player. He's a player that's really good football player. May not be the athlete, in shorts and t-shirts guy, or as they call it, the underwear Olympics. He may not be that, and so I respect the guy for being that way and say, hey, look at my tape. You want to see my 40? Look at my tape. You can see my medicals. Obviously, which they did where they found the need situation. But I respect that. I would like to see him run at his pro day. I think that'll help him a lot. But, I'd be glad to have him at 12. But speaking of other players, and like the Taylor Green, the quarterback from Arkansas, running the 4.3, 40-inch vertical, and it's kind of like it's the time of the year where it's like we get to the combine, we get wowed by the athletic testing, like, oh my gosh, this guy's so insanely fast, even though you saw it on film, because I've heard from scouts, and it's a great notion. The 40 times in the testing is just to confirm what you know, and sometimes just to be impressive. I think it's more so bigger for guys from smaller schools where you have good tape. Maybe you didn't play the Power 4 schools, but when you did play a Power 4, you look good. And then when you come out and do the workout, you look like you belong amongst the other guys, and you're able to run a good 40, have good athletic testings, have good strength, and showing on the field. And so those are things where I think we can't completely leave that out, because sometimes guys don't run for a reason. Like the receiver last year from Miami, he should have ran like I don't even, man, he still might be waiting to get that 40 times. But, guys like that, you have to be aware of that. And you can say someone's scared or not, but hey, you have to protect yourself and be like, hey, let my tape feed myself. Train yourself up. Maybe you get like a fast clock at your 40 time when you're doing it at your pro day. But I just, guys have to be smart about it. It's the biggest thing about getting your entry into the NFL. So I respect it, but I know we talked about some of that as far as the Cowboys, a little bit of the draft and the combine, but I would be remiss. I have to mention this before I move on as far as the final block here about the free agents and trades. I've got to give a shout out to Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles, his brother as well, who's, elite athletes, but Sonny Styles blowing the combine up, giving you everything. And once again, as I mentioned about confirming what you see on tape versus what you see at the combine. And just that was just like the perfect marriage of the athletic ability, the speed, the twitchiness, just totally on display. So Sonny Styles definitely at the start of the process, I'm like, man, I want him. He's a really good player. And now it's like there's no way he makes it to 12, especially with the mentioning about the knee of Caleb Downs there. And so that's just something I had to mention there. Shout out to everyone that made them some money. Like I think it was Mike Washington Jr., the running back from Arkansas, blazing fast 40, and just I'm happy for those guys. It's like, hey, let me get something to get on the radar. But I also want to mention, lastly, about the combine here is guys, putting the information out there to help a guy slip, or seeing that, hey, this guy had great film and his testing was okay, but everything you saw on film, trust what you saw on film. Again, trust what you saw on film. And Carnell Tate running a 4.53, which isn't bad at all. It's like he ran like a 4.7, but it's not as blazing as the other players. But his game film, playing in the Big Ten, dominating, playing great football, that should mean more. But the last thing I want to get into here is NFL free agency and getting crazy. Kyler Murray will be released. And by the time you watch this video, he may already be released. Tua Tagovailoa, he will be released. Kirk Cousins, as we've known for months, will be released. Geno Smith is not already released, will be released, as well as Malik Willis will be a free agent. So you have a lot of moving parts there, and I believe that Kyler has the talent. It's tough to trust him because of the height. We've seen that be a problem, the height. We also seen that, I've heard whispers of him and reading the defense isn't the strong suit. Of course, we know about the video game clause. So there's things and questions that made him, but this is a former number 1 overall pick. Obviously, Tua is a situation where you're not sure where things are with the concussion. I know I cringe every time he's tackled, but Tua is a guy that you can take a flyer on, I believe. A team like Minnesota is an opportunity. And shout out to my boy, Mr. Bennett, one of the co-hosts on the 101 Sports Show, and he mentioned it to us that he believes that the Texans should actually make a move to bring in Kyler Murray. Texas kid, I would say the greatest Texas high school quarterback prospect that's ever coming out of high school, bar none. But I will also say, when you look at it like this, the Texans, if they were to make a move like that, that's going to ruffle things with C.J. Stroud. So, and I think that Kyler Murray is probably looking at a definitive team where he can start. I don't know if the Jets make the call, because they still need a quarterback. And if I were them, I wouldn't take one because I don't have the number 1 pick. And I think that's obviously the best quarterback in the class. But, you have a situation where guys they're looking for a spot, and Kyler Murray is just trying to get the career rehab, probably take a short-term deal just because of the way the offset language works. He's going to be getting paid the bulk of that money from the Cardinals, just like Tua is getting paid like $54 million from the Dolphins. And it's just like, man, how bad do you suck? Or how bad do they think that you suck that they let you go paying you all that money? And that's just the way those teams decided to move. Malik Willis is getting a lot of intrigue, a lot of whispers about him. So I'm really interested to see, does he get a shot? Does he get that we like you, but we don't love you deal because you only give us so much? So I think that would be good for him to get an opportunity and hopefully to show that guys like, hey, if you get drafted later, go ahead, put your time in, put the work in, be a backup, get another place and be a backup. And if you can, get your jobs with one of these guys, the quarterback gurus, where, oh man, the Sean McVay, if the quarterback touches the hem of his arm, his knowledge of offense and being able to throw the ball is going to work out tremendously. And what I'll say this as well, a player transaction I would like to see made is Anthony Richardson. Get with one of those quarterback gurus. Get with a stable organization. Work on his game. 2-year deal, maybe even 3-year deal, where you're working on you're working on your throws and your timing. You're getting everything together so that you can, be the best player that you can be, and learning, because he has been in a process where he hasn't been able to learn. He's learning on the job. Didn't get enough starts in college. Hasn't had the stops with the Colts. He just needs time to sit, learn, develop, and get all the snaps in preseason. And the Rams would be a perfect place. But speaking of like moves as far as free agency, obviously, George Pickens has been tagged. But Breece Hall, last minute, he was tagged. I know he was unhappy about that. He was so close, especially when you got it back like Kenneth Walker on the market. So multiple backs, driving the price up, and I hate that for him, especially with the Jets. Daniel Jones got the transition tag for $37 million. Moves like puzzle me. I like it. I like T'Vondre Sweat coming out of Texas. He got traded for Jermaine Johnson. Going from the Titans to the Jets. And so that's one where it's like, interesting move to see, are they giving up on him, or is it just a move where both teams they were comfortable with? But I just want to say hats off to everybody from the combine and how they perform. I'm looking forward to, it's Lion season, so I'm looking for everything going through. But another trade I got to get into before we get out. Juice Scruggs, offensive lineman there with the Texans, was traded a part of the trade package for David Montgomery and a 4th-round pick going over to the Lions. And so I wish David Montgomery the best, good back, getting older there, but hopefully he can find his footing with the Texans. But the Texans also made a trade, Tyus Howard over to the Browns. And it's a deal with, all 5 of the starting offensive linemen for the Browns were free agents. So they've got to fill that line out and get things figured out. But looking forward for more and more mock drafts. Looking forward to how everything goes with free agency, as I'm going to be giving you lives. Possibly might go live as far as the free agency there. Just hey, like, share, subscribe. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. Definitely doing shorts and full content here as we're in go time. The off-season mode is about to get cranked up. But again, appreciate the support. Like, share, subscribe. But this is Dante with Sports Numbers and Culture. Out.